a joke you broke. Your love life's the away. It's like you're always stuck in second gear. When it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. I'll be there for you like I did then before. I'll be there for you 'cause you're there for me too.
Hi, my name is Frederick Henry, and welcome to this episode of Food Throughout History. Throughout history, America has been defined by its food, from yeoman farmers to hot dogs at baseball games to the Golden Arches. American culture has revolved around food, and because of this, public opinion of food and food production often reflects the sentiments felt by Americans at the time. How can America account for the sweeping changes occurring in American food industry today? Why did America choose to abandon the model of local farmers moving to mass production of food? And why is America compelled to return to the original model today with farmers markets and other grassroots movements? How did America go from this to this to this? Despite the departure from the global model of mass production and overconsumption, the modern-day revival movement of smaller, localized food production is justified due to its return to the traditional American values of self-sufficient yeoman farmers. It all started in the early 19th century when the U.S. economy was primarily agricultural. Farming during these times focused on growing wheat, corn, tobacco, sugarcane, and cotton. These booming crops created what is known as subsistence farming. Subsistence farming is living off what you grow. Farmers would occasionally sell crops to the local markets or use the crops to pay taxes. These farmers, being landowners, could vote, making them a fair portion of the voting community. A subsistence farmer that participated in the democratic process was known as a yeoman farmer. The yeoman farmer was a non-slaveholding, small landowning family farmer. The yeoman farmer was the basis of Republican values, propagated by Thomas Jefferson and the Jeffersonian democracy. Thomas Jefferson supported the idea of yeoman farmers because self-sufficient farmers wouldn't have to make political decisions based on their need for money. Alongside creating the desire to vote, it makes the voting process more legitimate, because someone with roots in the country would vote for the candidate with the best interests for the country. Transitioning to the late 19th century, the farmer ideals changed. Farmers, now growing primarily cash crops such as cotton, tobacco, or indigo to make a profit rather than be self-sufficient. This shift in ideals killed Jefferson's yeoman farmer, as American farmers started to treat agriculture as a business. The resurgence of cash crops coincided with the beginning of America's Second Industrial Revolution. With the Second Industrial Revolution, many Americans found themselves working long hours for little pay. Shortly thereafter, the Great Depression struck in full force. America was hungry, and something needed to be done about it. During the Great Depression, one of the first food stamp programs was introduced to help combat hunger and poverty. It helped feed a total of 20 million people over the course of the Depression and cost approximately $3 billion in today's economy. Fortunately for the United States, World War II rebooted the economy and food stamps were no longer needed for the moment. Food stamps were reintroduced in 1960 when John F. Kennedy was elected president. In 1961, one of JFK's first executive orders was the reinstitution of the food stamp program that had been established in the Great Depression. The program was initially intended to be a temporary solution for about 4 million people. Both of these did not go as planned. After JFK was assassinated, President Johnson pushed for the food stamp program to be permanent. Congress granted Johnson's wishes in 1964. 10 years later, 15 million people were on food stamps.
In 1964, a new food stamp program was introduced. The program was based on the food stamp program that was around in the Depression. This program was very interesting in politics. 90% of Democrats supported the program, compared to only 10% of the Republicans that supported the program. What is even more interesting is the fact that 15 years later, both Republicans and Democrats came to an agreement. In 1977, a new food stamp program was introduced, and both Republicans and Democrats agreed on that a new program was needed, as the original program in '64 only intended to support 4 million people. But by 1977, over 15 million people were on food stamps. So it's clear to both Republicans and Democrats that something needed to change, which is why they were able to agree on something for once. The program was put into action in 1977 and was a success, as over 45 million people are currently on food stamps, which shows how much good food stamps has done for the American people.
As the Great Depression arose in the 1920s, the food industry, like most American systems, changed drastically. America was transitioning from the simple yeoman farmer to the enormous fast food industry that dominates today. Across the nation, hungry Americans waited in soup lines for a free meal, hoping to receive as little as a loaf of bread. This was especially true in larger cities.
Hi, I'm just your average American housewife, and in this Great Depression, I wanted to share with you some of my family's favorite sandwiches. First, we have the onion sandwich, the ketchup sandwich, mayonnaise sandwich, and for dessert, the sugar sandwich.
I got dibs on the onion.
Oh, son.
Bread, the greatest thing about the Great Depression.
Ways.
So be sure to eat Wonder Bread.
Get Wonder Bread fresh at your grocer's today.
Farm life wasn't much better. Farmers had to work long hours to sustain themselves. Yet even during the Depression and all the hardships, many new foods were invented or introduced, such as Spam or Kraft mac and cheese. Due to people's low budget and inflated food prices, the fast food industry was invented.
When I was 40, I was running a service station in Kentucky where I also fed hungry travelers. I eventually moved my operation to a restaurant across the street and featured a fried chicken so notable and affordable that I was named Kentucky Colonel in 1935 by Governor Ruby LaFoon. I devoted myself to franchising my chicken business. I would travel from city to city selling pre-made, cheap, delicious fried chicken. I would stop by a restaurant at each city and leave my recipe behind, which created the chain. It's finger-licking good.
Although Americans faced hard times during the Great Depression, they still needed to eat. The Depression led to the creation of many American classics. For example, American cheese was invented because it was cheap to make and didn't require refrigeration. Westward expansion, combined with the introduction of steamboats, opened up new areas of agriculture. These new innovations shifted the United States from Thomas Jefferson's vision of the yeoman farmer to today's major commercial farming scene. This helped spawn the massive fast food industry that we see today. Once America made the transition from the yeoman farmer to commercial farming, the fast food industry took off. The founders of America's biggest chains built mega empires based on the pursuit of the American dream, and in the process changed the way that the world eats. The history of the food industry runs parallel to the popularization of cars. By 1950, Americans owned 40 million cars and trucks. For the first time in America, life was moving faster and faster. To serve the mobile masses, drive-in restaurants popped up all over the country. One of the first fast food chains to pop up was White Castle, founded by Bill Ingram. Though White Castle opened in 1921, it was never as popular as the soon-to-come McDonald's. McDonald's was the first restaurant to serve food out of a window and into a car. McDonald's restaurant was first opened in 1940 by brothers Dick and Maurice along Route 66 in San Bernardino, California. The success of the system, developed by the McDonald's brothers, inspired other up-and-coming entrepreneurs to try out the industry themselves. Keith J. Kramer and Matthew Burns were the founder of Burger King. Carl Karcher was the founder of Carl's Jr. Glenn Bell was the founder of Taco Bell. And James Collins was the founder of KFC. The reason why McDonald's was so popular was the streamlined production method. They named it the Speedy Service System, which was influenced by the production line innovations of Henry Ford. The limited menu at McDonald's allowed for the pre-production of the products, which offered speedy consumption by the customer. Original McDonald's offered no seating arrangements. Consumers could walk right up to the service window, place their order, and enjoy a hamburger, fries, and a Coke with ease. By 1951, McDonald's had grossed $275,000, or 1.8 million burgers. The fast food business was here to stay.
The fast food industry has infiltrated every nook and cranny of American society. An industry that began with a handful of modest hot dog and hamburger stands in California has spread to every corner of the nation, selling a broad range of foods. Fast food is now served at restaurants, stadiums, airports, trains, and airplanes. In 1970, Americans spent about $6 billion on fast food. In 2000, they spent more than $110 billion. Americans now spend more money on fast food than on higher education, personal computers, or new cars. They also spend more money on fast food than on movies, books, magazines, newspapers, videos, and recorded music combined.
The extraordinary growth of the fast food industry was driven by fundamental changes in American society. Adjusted for inflation, the hourly wage of the average U.S. worker peaked in 1973 and then steadily declined for the next 25 years. During that period, women entered the workforce in record numbers. In 1975, about one-third of American mothers with young children worked outside the home. While the fast food industry did employ a lot of people, it also worried many people. In the early 1970s, farming activist Jim Hightower warned people about the McDonaldization of America. He viewed the emerging fast food industry as a threat to independent businesses and as a step toward a food economy dominated by giant corporations. The tremendous success of the fast food industry has encouraged other industries to adopt similar business methods. The basic thinking behind fast food has become the operating system of today's retail economy. They wipe out small businesses, obliterating regional differences, and spreading identical stores throughout the country like a self-replicating code. Currently, the fast food industry is the largest employer of minimum wage workers in the country, with the food prepared in enormous central kitchens and flavors coming from chemical plants. Fast food empires stand on top of huge industrial complexes that have destroyed the family farm, creating in its place industrial farms with absentee corporate owners. With all this being said, why then have we gone back to local? What happened? Prior to the early 20th century, federal laws regulating the contents and sale of produced food and pharmaceuticals were few and far between. Most Americans simply grew their own food or bartered for it from their neighbors, so there was no need to have regulations. But as the Industrial Revolution hit, food, like many other American commodities, quickly became mass-produced. The factories that produced food cared more about profit than the safety or nutritional value of what they were producing. These companies did very little to regulate their food production or prevent contamination. Upton Sinclair's The Jungle helps expose the disgusting realities of food production at the time, and soon many Americans were calling for a change.
The Jungle was a huge change in the American perception of mass-produced food. The general sentiment during the start of the Industrial Revolution was that bigger and more efficient was always better. However, after reading The Jungle, many Americans realized that they weren't willing to eat mass-produced food if that meant eating rats, rotting food, or any of the other disgusting, accidental additions that eventually ended up on their plates.
The change came in 1906 in the form of the Food and Drug Act, which established the Food and Drug Administration. The FDA was founded on June 30th of 1907 by President Theodore Roosevelt and Harvey Washington Wiley under the state's Department of Health and Human Services. The FDA's main role was to enforce the restrictions put in place by the Food and Drug Act. These restrictions include prohibition of food which had added fillers of reduced quality, coloring of food to conceal damage, using additives that were injurious to the health, or the inclusion of filthy, decomposed, or putrid substances. Although the initial establishment of the FDA helped reduce the fears of the public, the original iteration of the act was not enough. By the 1930s, muckrakers were calling for stronger restrictions, publishing a list of injurious products that were not banned in the 1906 law. The proposed new law couldn't get through Congress for 5 years, but eventually was enacted in the form of the 1938 Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act on June 24th. Although the original Food and Drug Act mainly focused on stricter drug regulations, it did authorize factory inspections, which are still a critical aspect of food safety today.
I only eat meat. Not that vegetable eaters are bad people, it's just vegetable eaters are terrible people. Do you know how dangerous deer are to drivers? If you don't kill and eat deer, you basically want people to die. This is a meat-based cucumber substitute. It looks like a cucumber and tastes like a cucumber with none of the cucumber. Ugh, broccoli? That's what my food eats. You're eating my food's food, and I do not appreciate that. So what are you waiting for? Become a meat eater and say what's going on.
While the Food and Drug Act helped straighten the laws regarding food safety, it wasn't until recently that Americans began to think about where their food comes from and how it is affecting their bodies and society. Current-day supermarkets contain produce from every corner of the globe, and many home meal replacements that demand nothing more of the customer than opening the package and waiting for the microwave to ding. Although cheap food is convenient, there are underlying costs to the environment, public health, and even American culture. These problems have become impossible to ignore in recent years. More than 2 out of 3 American adults are obese. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in America. The fast food industry as a whole generated about $191 billion in 2013 alone. Highly paid corporate lobbyists work to prevent any meaningful change occurring within the food industry, despite the efforts of several past generals and the FDA. Even Michelle Obama tried to prevent the McDonaldization of America from continuing. With the political and economic worlds dominated by fast food, much of the health movement has turned towards social change. Americans everywhere are choosing to purchase organic, sustainable, and ethically made food, not because of price or because of the law, but because of an enhanced moral compass and a sense of responsibility for their own bodies. With Americans going back to locally produced food, farmers markets have popped up all over the country. Farmers markets offer food of great quality, help support small-scale farmers, and increase the amount of local food available to shoppers. Along with farmers markets, commercialized supermarkets like Trader Joe's and Whole Foods have also gained popularity. These stores work to bring consistent, healthier options to customers throughout America. However, eating cheap and healthy has historically been mutually exclusive. As we saw earlier, one of the reasons fast food became so popular was that it was so cheap. Without access to cheap and healthy food choices, low-income individuals cannot easily make positive changes to their diets. Popular food producers, including fast food chains, are already trying various tricks and technologies to create lower-calorie treats. The overall goal is to produce healthy, cheap food for the consumer. Finally, the food producers are beginning to see eye to eye with the consumer on how the food actually affects their bodies. Over time, America's opinion of food has evolved greatly and has come nearly full circle. The revival movement of farmers markets and the return to small, local food production demonstrates that America has finally realized that food closest to its natural state is good for you. Not mass-produced food, with ingredients no one even knew existed. But the movement means more than that. It shows that the American people are thinking about where they've been over the past few centuries, and where they want to go. The American people are beginning to have a new appreciation for how their actions and opinions have a big impact in both their day-to-day life and their place in the world as a country. And as our food habits change, so will other American policies. With food at the forefront of change, America is quickly pointing itself in a new direction, away from bigger and better and towards what is sustainable, logical, and healthy.
Feeling
the sun, party done, shadows walking home. Walking with a game on. You are my kind, classic mind.
Hey guys, it's me, Bia. I'm here at the mock meeting at Chris's house, and right now we're just working on some stuff, and I want to know how long it's going to take for people to notice that I'm gone and stuff. I'm really sick, but Emily was like, you have to come to the meeting because like being sick is not an excuse, Bia. So here I am. I'm not happy about it, and I'm really hungry. So yeah, wish me luck. Bye.
So Jimmy forgot his charger. What percent are we at?
6.
6%. James Wallace.
Also,
Okay, I'm filming. Yeah, I can see you. Get up.
That's the point. I need screen time.
throw the knife.
Speaking like a real freak. Voice in my head, in my bed, filled with you instead. Taking your time.
That's what my food eats. You're eating my food's food. And I don't stop it. Can we switch her out?
Sawyer, get out of the shot. Sawyer, come on. Get up. Oh, come on. Sawyer.
Chris just told me he hates me. This is the worst day of my life.
That's still gonna be problematic.
What did I do to
This
him?
is not like.
I don't know.
Before you played Skulker, there was just like